20 years climbing the corporate ladder at Verizon, leading digital product strategy for companies like Apple, Amazon, Samsung, and Google. He left to build his own thing, and then he did what everybody said to do. He started creating content. 500 posts in 14 months, every type of content, carousels, reels, talking head videos, value posts, and got one client from all of that. Then one shift, not a new platform, not a new tactic, one shift in how he deployed what he already knew, one strategic partnership. That created 15 new clients and 75,000 in 10 days. That's my story. And if you're someone with real expertise, 10, 15, 20 years of professional experience, and you're either planning your exit from corporate or you're already made the leap and you're trying to figure out what's next, stay for this one because at the end of this episode, by the end of this episode, you're going to see that the career transition has more paths than one, and it's not what everyone else is showing you. And uh, some of them might fit your life a whole lot better. My name is Ryan Baker. Like I said, I spent 20 years at Verizon. The last several of those years leading digital product strategy for Apple, Amazon, Samsung, and Google. And the guy next to me is the reason I'm sitting here right now. LD spent 12 years in the Air Force, including serving as a contracting officer, managing multi-million-dollar procurement decisions. Then he made his own career transition, walked away, and within 18 months built an insurance adjusting business that produced 250,000, not from building a following, but from deploying what he already knew in the right rooms. He's the person who coached me through the shift that turned 14 months of struggle into 75,000 in 10 days. LD?
Sweet, sweet, awesome. And yeah, Ryan, dude, you're always being humble, and I can appreciate it. It's kind of a as usual type thing with you at this point, man. But what he's not telling you, those 20 years at Verizon, but like when he made the decision to start making his transition out and building a full-time income online in part-time hours or less, where we kind of are now, which is awesome. Um, like he's just been absolutely awesome when it comes to not just learning more about AI but navigating it and being someone who's like, if I want to know something about AI, I know I can go and ask him because he's probably nerded out on everything that there is to know at the forefront right now. And then on top of that, like, things didn't work out for him just because he has skills and that type of stuff. Like, he's also a really, really good dude. So it's one of those things where when he left corporate and he had that same skill set, but he made the decision to apply it to his own business. That one application over, basically a 10-20 day period turned into some massive results that most people would actually want. Like, and the key here is to understand that he didn't learn something new to make that happen. Like, he literally just stopped trying to be something that he wasn't and started deploying what was already there. And that's going to be the conversation for today. So if you're someone who's also still in corporate right now and you feel like you're building two lives, like the one that pays the bills and then the one that you actually want, this is going to be for you. And if you've already made the leap and you're out here trying to reinvent yourself from scratch when everything you need is already in your back pocket, this is going to be for you as well. So imagine knowing that your 10, 15, 20 years of professional experience isn't baggage that you're carrying into entrepreneurship. It's not baggage. I promise you that. It's actually the foundation that you're building on. And that's what we found. I found it out over the last 10 years of being in the, online space, earning a full-time income and building different things and making exits and blah, 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 blah. And that's what we're going to be walking through today overall.
So LD said something, you said something that completely reframed how I thought about my own transition. You said you don't need 20,000 followers to make 20,000 a month. You need one aligned path that fits your life, and the corporate career already gave me most of the pieces. So LD, can you break that down for us?
Yeah, absolutely, man. And, again, a lot of what we talk about in these liftoff live episodes, it's geared towards the person who, we say 10, 15, 20 years, but it could be 5, right? Because I had 12 years in the Air Force, but 5 or 6 of those was me being a contracting officer. And I was able to leverage that new career and everything that I learned going through the 4 years of an integrated Harvard Business School with the contracting officer certification, and blah, 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 taking all of that stuff. And like, when I made the decision to, walk away, I didn't naturally just start using those things. But what I did do was, every time I made a transition into something else, or I made the decision to do something else, it was, I just knew that it would be better off for me, and the fastest path to get there would be me leveraging my competitive advantage and expertise over me just stopping everything and let me go build a following, let me go become an influencer and do all of this type of stuff. So, with that being said, this is what we discovered overall, and it applies to you whether you're still in a corporate company or you've already left. Like, everyone is told there's one path from where you are to where you want to be. And that's build content, build a following, build a funnel, drive traffic, convert leads, scale. And that is a path. I promise you, I've done it. And for most people, though, what I've realized is that path for me was me being the square peg, grinding myself down to be able to fit into the round hole. Right. So we're not saying that it doesn't work. But here's what no one's really, really talking about, is the fact that that path was designed by and for people who do this full time. Like, there's so many people out there that follow that path and they grind it out and they make it work. And a percentage of those people, like, they're naturally inclined to do that. But the rest of the people, they literally just grind it out, time, energy, resources, life, that they'll never be able to really, really get back. So it's one of those things where, if you're someone who does not have 40, 50, 60 hours a week to pour into content creation and audience building, and you look at yourself as being someone who's, that you have real expertise, that you have a life, a family, you might even still have a corporate job, but you definitely have a life outside of the internet, then that math, it usually doesn't work, right? And what we found is that, simply put, 2 plus 2 is not the only way to get to 4, right? And it's super simple when you think about it. There's 1 plus 3, there's 100 minus 96, right? But there's more than one way. And for anyone listening to this, you should get excited about that, because for me, I knew going into it that I wouldn't be a 2 plus 2 guy. I knew that I was likely gonna be like a 1,000 minus the square root of this and then in this, right? But it's one of those things where there are other combinations, there's other paths to traffic, leads, and sales that might fit your life a whole lot better. Ryan found one, I found a different one, time and time again. And in today's episode, we're going to be walking through 3 things. Number 1 is going to be why the conventional career transition playbook has a math problem for people like us, right? Number 2 is going to be what the real cost of following that playbook looks like in time and money. And third, how to deploy what you already have instead of starting from scratch. So, Brian, you live this, man. You tried the conventional path first, and then you found the different math. Like, before we get into the frameworks, just confirm something for the people watching, man. Was it a completely different skill set that produced the 75K, or was it the same skills just aimed differently?
Yeah, it was definitely the latter. It was the same skills, different, just pointed in a different direction, because I was the same person, same skills, same 24 hours in a day, and the only thing that changed was the path. So the conventional path, it wasn't working for me. It just wasn't designed for somebody like me. And that realization was the shift for me. So, um, yeah, with that said, let's lean into that first cycle.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, man. So here's what most people believe about the career transition. They believe the fastest way to successfully go from corporate to entrepreneurship is to build build up enough revenue and stability on the other side, and then leaving becomes risk free. And simply put, if I'm making 3 to 5 times as much as I'm normally getting in my monthly salary, then I'd feel more comfortable. And if I've been making that for 6, 12, 18 months, then I'd feel more comfortable. And again, it sounds logical. It's actually pretty smart, and it sounds like good advice. But here's what it actually costs you. You spend months, sometimes years, building on a model that was never really designed for someone with your schedule, with your responsibilities, and your life. You're following a playbook that was written for full time content creators and people who've been in the online space for a while, right? Because one of the biggest issues is that we find ourselves only looking to people who have notable success. And again, it's a self-preservation thing. I totally get it, but just because someone has 100,000 followers and they've made 7 figures and they've done it, you don't know how they did it, right? Like this is a crazy example, but like you could also go make $1 million being a gangster rapper, Ryan. But the reality of it, it's kind of dangerous, and it might be, a wilder path that's not in alignment with like your values, like your old family setup. You don't want people doing like this is crazy, but you don't want people doing like drive-bys on the RV, bro. You know what I mean? Like that's not what we want. So it's one of those things where like when you build safety on the wrong model, it's just an illusion that keeps you stuck forever. When you build safety on the wrong model, it's just an illusion that keeps you stuck forever. And I know this full and true because when I got out of the military, I got out because of what was being made and the progress that I made in direct sales. And when that went to the wayside, it was like I was grinding, hustling, doing 5, 10, 15, 20 presentations a day. And then when all of that went away, it's like, so now I don't have a military career anymore. This isn't really panning out. So I need to go figure something else out. And again, the model, it's like if I would have done then what we are doing now, my life would have been in a totally different situation. So, but obviously everything happens for a reason. So now here's the other side, and this is for the people that have already left. Like you made the leap, you're out, but now you feel like you have to, kind of reinvent yourself from scratch. You're learning funnels, learning copywriting, social media strategy, and it's almost as if like 15 years of professional expertise doesn't really transfer. And the real problem isn't the risk of leaving or the challenge of reinventing. The real problem is that every month you spend grinding on a model that doesn't fit, whether you're still in corporate or already out. It's a month that you're paying double your energy to a strategy that doesn't convert and your confidence to a narrative that says this should be working by now, right? Again, when it comes to being on both sides of that fence, whether you've left yet or not, one of the best things that you could possibly do is look at things from an alignment first approach because it positions you in a way to put your best effort forward. Ryan, you've heard me say this a bunch of times, but I would always say whenever people brought me new things, whether it was on the Ask Me Anything calls or private coaching calls or whatever, they would bring up some idea that's not in alignment with what we were already doing. I would always say this: do what you feel the most confident in, because that is what's going to get your best effort anyway. And I believe that when you take the alignment first approach, you actually put yourself in a position to do things that you're not just confident in, but you're also good in, aka the 15 years of expertise. But it puts you in a position that when things get hard, you don't have to ever really look at imposter syndrome as much as someone who's going from 20 years in Verizon to I'm going to be a content creator. So, Ryan, like you tried the conventional path, 500 posts, build the audience, play the content game. Like, at what point did you realize that wasn't your math? Like, what was the moment where you were like, this doesn't add up for me?
It took me way longer than it should have, and that's the part that's really hard to admit because I'm an analytical person by nature. I think you definitely know that about me. I weigh decisions a lot of times way too long, like at a fault. So I look at the data, and that's literally what I did for most of my 20 years of Verizon. But when it was in my own business, I wasn't looking at data. I was looking at other people's highlight reels. I was watching people on Instagram and YouTube, some of them half of my age, posting about how much money they were making. And I thought that's the model that I need to be following: create content, build a following, and monetize that audience. So I did what they said to do. I posted 500 times in 14 months in all the formats, like all the learn how to create carousels, reels, talking head videos, which I think at one point you said to me when we were reviewing our content that if you didn't know any better, it looked like somebody was pointing a gun at me, forcing me to record those videos. Like, that's how you were talking before about trying to do things that don't come naturally. Creating content couldn't come any less naturally to me. So all those things, value posts, engagement hooks, I was posting every single day, 2, 3, 4 times, and the result, the only client that came directly from that content was one.
Yeah.
And so the moment that I actually sat down and looked at that objectively, taking all the feelings out of the equation, not just saying keep going, like giving myself that pep talk that I kept giving myself, but no, just looking at the actual numbers, I realized that the problem wasn't me, that it was broken math, the ROI per hour of investment that I was putting into content. That effort was essentially zero. And if this were a product at Verizon, it would have been killed in the first quarterly review. And that was the moment that things changed. That was the shift, not a new tactic. It wasn't a new platform. It wasn't new software. It was just finally being honest with myself that 2 plus 2 was never going to get me to 4, not through that equation. And at least this version of 2 plus 2. And that opened the door to asking a completely different question. What's the other math? Like, what are the other ways to get traffic, leads, and sales that don't require to become a full-time content creator? And the answer to that question is what really changed things. So, LD, you left the Air Force and replaced your income in year one, and that wasn't from building a following. What was your version of different math when you were making that transition?
Yeah, man. I think that it's highly, most people can probably relate to this to some degree. I was at a place where I just wasn't really happy with where my career was going. I went from winning, almost every quarterly and annual award, other leadership awards. I went from doing all of that to just coming in a close second every single time. And they're like, dude, you were right there, man. But you can stomach that once or twice, but when it's the same, like it's like they're reading off a piece of paper the third, fourth, fifth time that they're saying it, it's like, all right, I'm gonna have to figure something out, right? And when I was in direct sales, like I just I leveraged relationship building, right? And not necessarily in the traditional way that most people would think, because most people look at direct sales in a certain type of light, but direct sales is real estate as well. It's selling insurance and all. So these are normal relationship heavy businesses that thrive on referrals. They thrive on building those relationships and being available when called upon, right? So that was what I really um, built, like everything that was relevant. I built it on that, and then more so is when I made the decision that I wanted to like get into real estate, but I had to face the music that I don't know very much about a house. And by me not knowing very much about homes, I was hesitant to buy a home because, again, it's like if anything goes wrong, who is this going to be on? It's going to be on me. And if I don't know how to fix anything, or I don't even understand what's going on, that was the reason I even got into the insurance industry in the first place, because it was a way for me to learn and earn. Right. I'm really big on learning and earning. So with that, once I realized that I didn't have to go work directly for an insurance company, I realized that, oh, so I can kind of run my own thing from my laptop. I don't have to climb on roofs. I don't have to do any of the stuff that I don't want to do. I can literally have people who want to go climb a roof go do it. and they go take a bunch of pictures and videos and they send it in to me, and I, get trained on how to look at these things, and I'm able to look at them and make quality evaluations and write estimates and do all of the amazing things associated with that. And it's like, dude, that's kind of what I was doing in the Air Force. Oh, this lines up perfectly. Now, to anyone hearing this, I wouldn't go do that right now because like we're in a low season or a low cycle in the insurance industry. So you're going to show up and there's not going to be a lot of contracts and work available. But at the time when I was looking at it a few years ago, they had a massive need, right? So it's one of those things where if you can catch it, it wasn't about me becoming someone new. It was about discovering where I could deploy the account management and contracting officer skills that I already had, right? So, um, when you look at everything that we just talked about, it's like that's the real theory. But let's look at what this actually looks like in the real world, man. There's someone living this tension right now. They're a high earner. They made the leap, discovering that showing up isn't actually enough. So Ryan, go ahead and take it away with our first Reddit story, man.
Thank you. Yeah. So this Reddit story is titled I quit my 300K finance job at 30 because I finally admitted that I hated it. So this is someone who was 30-year-old. They had been 7 years in high earning corporate finance. Like we said, 300K a year. They quietly walked away. Now they're between buying into a family business and launching a real estate startup. They would be self-financing either option. They're the sole designer, creator, marketer. They wrote in their post, I genuinely believed I could just show up and cultivate something. I was completely delusional. So then when the post went wide enough actually to be covered by Yahoo Finance, they missed the $200 sushi ski trips and immediate respect of saying I work in finance. And a recruiter called them offering a mid six-figure job. So the pullback is purely emotional, not financial.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I, you know, heart goes out to that guy, but I love like this example because I believe that a lot of the people that are going to get the most value from us are in a situation very similar to this in many ways. Like he had the golden handcuffs, he wanted to do something bigger. Bigger didn't work out in the capacity that he wanted it to, and he sees that it's going to be a longer road and it's going to be actually hard. It's not just going to be easy. And he's like, I think I kind of want to go back to the sushi and ski trips because again, it is a life. Like, dude, I get it. When I was in the Air Force and I was playing basketball and doing all of this stuff, like it's a very attractive life especially if you have no desire to help other people, right? But the big thing with me was I had that massive desire of like wanting to help other people make it as well and not just me. So the biggest things with him is that he skipped discovering his competitive advantage entirely, right? Like, like he went from I quit straight to I'm buying businesses. Let's do this, right? And it's like, I don't know. 7 years of analytical thinking, risk assessment, deal structure, all of that is just sitting unused for the most part. So, the if he if he does the honest audit, it's gonna like actually show which vehicle fits his actual skills so that he can stop basically hemorrhaging money on businesses that don't really align and having to maybe sell them off or do whatever he's going to do. But the biggest thing is him going back, him taking a trip to Paraguay or some chill place and just sitting for a week, 2 weeks, a month, and just figuring out what his competitive advantage is and how does he want to leverage that in the open marketplace, man. Do you have anything on that one?
Yeah, for me, I mean, the thing that jumps off the page at me about this one is the quote where he said, I genuinely believe that I could just show up and I could cultivate something because Who does that sound like? It was me. Like if I go back in time to December of 2023 and all the posts about just like show up and create these reels and these people like literally making 6 and 7 figures from selling other people's products. Like that's me. Just show up online and post content. And my thought was that the internet was just going to reward me for existing. And it feels like that's the same kind of vibe that I'm getting from the situation that's described here. And what really gets me is like he spent 7 years in the finance industry. I spent 20 years in technology. So he knows deal structure, financial modeling, relationship management, risk assessment. Those aren't just corporate skills. Those are the exact skills that make businesses work. Like by definition, those are the skills that you need going into business. But instead of deploying any of that, he just went like, let me just go buy a family business or buy into a family business and started a real estate company. Those are two things that have nothing to do with what made him worth 300,000 a year in the first place. And it's the other thing is self-financing both of those things at the same time. That's not entrepreneurship. That's like burning savings to prove a point. It's fuel before engine. He's spending money before he's figured out what he's actually building. And that runway has a clock on it, whether you want to admit it or not. So and then the final thing is just like the recruiter calls. He says the pullback is all emotional. He misses the lifestyle, the respect, the identity, and I get all of that. But there were moments in my transition where the easiest thing in the world would have been to pick up the phone and just go get a contracted product management job, because at least there I knew or at least I thought I knew who I was. But going back doesn't solve the problem. It just puts it on pause. And the same restlessness that made him leave, it will be there in another 6 months.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Love it, man. Love it. So, um, if there was an action that I would give him in this to kind of work this out, and this is something that if you feel that you align with this story, you can use it as well. Anyone out there listening, is go to AI, and here's a prompt that you can literally take to AI. You can use ChatGPT. I would recommend using Claude or Perplexity, something like that. But yeah, what you're going to want to do is give it like your roles, the industries, years of experience, skills that people kept coming back to you from. Like almost like you almost want to take your resume, and you can use like speech to text and just kind of talk through each of the resume bullets and what you really did, like what really made this a significant thing, not the fluff, not the LinkedIn stuff, like what really made this a significant bullet, right? And just for a quick example on that. So back in the day when I was a contracting officer, we had these F-22 shelters, right? And we needed them to be built. There was a big contract that was $6.5 million, blah, 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 blah. Well, what ended up happening was while they were building them, one of the guys had slipped and one of the beams had like fell on him, and like he was laying there and he was not in a good shape at all. And what I ended up doing was, because I was out there at the time, so I coordinated everything to get the emergency services out there, get everyone out there coordinated, boom. And I wasn't acting like, all right, I'm in charge, let's go do this. It was like everyone else was just in shock and I just acted, right? So when that bullet shows up in my resume, it doesn't necessarily show up as like I saved this person's life, even if it's written that way. The reality of it is, in the most gangster moment of life where someone's about to lose their life, like I acted when everyone else kind of stood there, and that gives some level of a battle test, right? So it's like, give the real answer behind these bullets, and then what you're going to want to do is ask it, like, what am I already known for? What patterns actually show up? And one thing to understand is that AI doesn't have the emotional baggage you have about your own career. It's just going to see the data. And when you see what comes from this, if nothing else, it should just turn the light bulb on, flicker the light bulb. You have to see it outside of you in order for you to truly acknowledge it. So we're gonna put the full prompt in the description, and we'll be good to go on that. So just a few quotes from notable experts. Man, Reid Hoffman, he said, "All human beings are entrepreneurs." I love this one, by the way. When we were in the caves, we were all self-employed. As civilization came, we suppressed it. We became labor because they stamped us. And I think that there's so many people out there that have just kind of rode the wave of having a job or being in corporate and things like that. And don't get it twisted. When I was in the Air Force, if you would have told me that I was getting out after 12 years, everyone around you would have laughed at you, and I definitely would have laughed at you. Dude, I reached the retirement rank in under 8 years. So it's like I had to do nothing more than just show up to work for the next, what, 6 to or the next 12 years, and I would have been straight, right? So super important for you to understand that you're not becoming an entrepreneur. You're going back essentially to what you already are, right? The corporate version was the suppressed version. The one who followed someone else's playbook, that's what that was. That's not you. It doesn't have to be you if you don't want it to be. The easiest way to put it is that the hardware is already there. You have the software already in there as well. You just have to go back and understand it, and just make that honest realization that I already know what to do. I just have to spend the time on a daily basis working on myself in a quality way to bring those things to the forefront. So the transition is not about courage. It's about deploying what's been there the whole time. And I promise you it's in there. And the more you get around crazy people like us, that, like, I am fully engaged with the idea that I can do things that most people think that I can't do, right? No one thought about me going to over 100 countries. And here we are, right? And some people might think I'm crazy, but it's like, I'm happy. Like, I'm always like this, right? Right? Like, unless I'm just not feeling good, I'm always like, that dude needs to calm down. Like, what is he on? Nothing but water. But anyway, another another quote from Seth Godin is the opposite of quitting isn't waiting around. The opposite of quitting is an invigorated new strategy. All right. The opposite of quitting isn't waiting around. The opposite of quitting is an invigorated new strategy. And I think that people grossly underestimate the amount that you can get done over a 90-day period. I love 90-day runs. You've heard me talk about them time and time and time again, Ryan. 90-day runs are so clutch. And what happens is people usually are starting out in some area of their life or business or their mentality. They're starting out in the negative and they don't realize it. And they need a 90-day run. Let's just say that you're negative $10,000. And if you do a 90-day run, it makes you negative 5,000. At the end of those 90 days, the wrong way to look at it is, dude, I'm still in the negative. The right way to look at it is, oh my God, I just cut half of that away. I need one more of these and I'll be good to go. All right. So anyway, like, that's me beating that like a dead horse. But like, the more people, I just know the more people that I can get to understand that, like the power of a 90-day run, like, you're in the negative. Most of you guys listening to this right now, no disrespect, but you're in the negative in some area of your life that is going to be needed for you to excel and create a full-time income in business. You're in the negative and you have to do something to get out of it. And it's not buying courses. It's not, maybe it's masterminds. Maybe it's getting around other people that were once in the negative as well. And they made a way out of it to be in the positive and be 10,000 in the positive, which is going to put us in a really, really great place. So shift number two, it's all about the real cost. And here's what people believe about the timing of a career transition. They believe their priority should be keeping corporate secure while building on the side. Entrepreneurship has to wait until the timing is right. When I have more savings, when the kids are older, when the market is better. And on the money side, they can't invest in building an aligned model until they know it will work. And this brings up such an important reality. Everything that you just heard me talk about, that's not playing to win. That's playing not to lose. And there's nothing wrong with that in the short term, but in the long term, can you see how if you're never playing, if you never get to the point of playing to win, how could you ever beat someone who is playing to win? If you're playing only not to lose, how could you ever beat someone who's actually playing to win? And they have 12, 20, 90-day runs of them just going at it, playing to win, right? So like these people that are playing not to lose, this is what they do. They spend 10, 15, 20 hours a week creating content that produces nothing. They buy courses, they try tactics, they're scrolling on Instagram and someone's talking about Claude Code or OpenClaw or something like that. And they optimize things that were never going to really work in the first place, right? So every month that passes, they're just paying double. They're investing in things, but they're also paying with time that they won't ever be able to get back, right? Their time to a strategy just never really converts. Their money to tools and programs that teach them to do more of what's not working never really pans out. The model they're running on the side is the same content treadmill that will never produce the number that makes leaving feel safe for most people. And I've seen this hundreds, if not thousands of times, because I literally used to coach people on digital marketing and creating content and going viral and these things. And I've seen it time and time again where 80% of the people that paid the coaching company that I was coaching for, 80% of them would have benefited much more heavily from alignment first, relationship building, right? So, but they don't. And what ends up happening is they stay and they grind, and the right time never really comes because the right time really doesn't exist when the model is wrong. And eventually they either hop to another program or they fizzle out and they just kind of act like nothing ever happened and they go back to their normal life. I've seen that happen time and time again as well. But what we found is this: the most important thing you can spend time on is building a model that works on the hours you actually have. And the most important thing you can spend money on is the thing that gives you the option to never need corporate again and gets you around the people that are ahead of you in the same lane as you, as well as some people who are maybe a little behind you, because it's super important to understand that you need all three areas, but in the beginning, you need the people who are ahead of you a lot more. And not just being in their program, but having access to them. That is the key. You need proximity and access to people who are further along and have more than what you have. That's what everybody tells poor people, right? Poor people, go get around people who have more money and your standard will change, right? What's the same thing with this? If you're looking to make that transition out, you have to get around people, whether they, come from the same place as you or not. Like the common goal is full-time income and part-time hours or less online. You have to get around more people that have that going on that also align with your personality type and your values and things along those lines. So, with all that being said, Ryan, from your product strategy background, man, if a team at Verizon was spending 14 months and significant resources on something producing almost a zero return, what would that conversation sound like? We know what's going to happen, but what would the conversation actually sound
Yeah, the conversation would be this is getting shut down. There wouldn't even be a question. If a team I was leading at Verizon came and said we've been running this product initiative for 14 months, we've invested hundreds of hours, and the return is essentially one conversation, I would not have told them try harder. I would have pulled the plug, and the resources would have been reallocated somewhere else. I mean, it would have happened so quick that people's heads would have spun. And the honest truth about what I was doing with my own business was I was running a failing product and refusing to do the diagnostic that I would have done on a 30 in a 30 day on day 30 in a corporate setting, because in corporate there's no emotion attached to a product decision. It's just purely based on data, or at least that's why product managers exist, is so that
Yeah.
we can look at things objectively through that lens. It's just data, and
Yeah.
there's nothing personal about it. So you look at the inputs, you look at the outputs, and if the math doesn't work, then the model has to change. As pure and simple as that. But when it is your business, when it's your identity, your dream, your is this my ticket out of corporate, you don't run that diagnostic. You tell yourself stories instead. Like, I just need to be more consistent. The algorithm just hasn't picked me yet. Maybe I need a better hook. And you keep pouring time into a model that was never designed for somebody like you in the first place, me. The irony is the skill that would have saved me, the product strategy lens, the ability to evaluate whether a model is fundamentally viable, it was sitting right in front of my face, which I have been accused of not seeing things right in front of my face a time or two. I just wasn't applying it to my own situation. I was the product manager who forgot that I was also the product.
Yeah.
So LD, you've built businesses on part-time hours, from Paraguay, for example, with no massive following, no content machine. For someone who's watching this and they're thinking 15 hours a week isn't enough, what does your actual week look like? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. Um, and I think that my week right now, as we're in like the escape velocity phase of liftoff lab, and building the wait list and getting the word out that there is a different way, a better way for most people. It's like, I don't know if that's the best example, because it's almost like saying how much gas, how much fuel does a does a does an airplane use right now, when right now is when it's actually taking off. But speaking from like just a normal 15 to 20, I'll put it to you like this to make it easy for people to understand. If you're looking to get a job in corporate, how many LinkedIn and Indeed applications do you have to put in, versus if someone that you know really, really well who has a notable position in the company vouches for you? That's the difference. That is the big difference. Because you could be the person filling out 100, 200 freaking applications per day. But if you know someone on the inside and they have any type of weight in rooms that matter, you're going to be able to get that role and knock that out much quicker than the average person. So, um, I think that it's super, super important to understand that. And that's kind of proof that the hours are enough when the model is right. So let's look at someone who hasn't made the shift yet via the next Reddit story, man.
Yeah, thank you. This next Reddit story is titled, I wasted 6 months on content before realizing nobody cares about your expertise. So this was a solo marketer, knowledge worker that went all in on educational content for 6 months. Marketing frameworks, copywriting psychology, email strategy. In a single month, they produced 127 pieces of content across LinkedIn, X, and blogs. And the outcome was 340 followers, zero clients, roughly 12 meaningful interactions. And so this is the classic authority content playbook: long form LinkedIn breakdowns, X threads about psychology, in-depth blog posts, all for zero paying clients.
Yeah. And to make this one super quick, because it's literally the essence of um, everything that we're talking about, content isn't the problem. Distribution is the problem. The distribution model is. This is a classic case of shouting into the void. And there's nothing wrong with creating content. For example, there will be people who watch this stream and they're going to see me post 10, 20 times in a day, right? And they're going to be like, these guys are talking about not creating content and doing all of this, but this guy's posting a bunch of content. It's like, well, that's the part that you see. You're not seeing me being in the right rooms and offering, high level helpful assets and perspectives in those rooms, and people make the decision to kind of check me out and they see all of my content. See, I'm tapping people on the shoulder before I'm ever looking at content and saying this is going to be my ticket out of the poorhouse. You know what I
That
mean? Like,
that's the key distinction. It's a different content strategy.
exactly, man. So it's like, and the cool part is that the person like actually enjoys the intellectual side. Like even you, Ryan, like you enjoy like creating helpful things if it's going to move things forward for everyone involved, right? The frameworks, the psychology, like writing things out and making things clear for people to understand. But when someone gets burned out by high volume, that is the telltale sign that you're in the wrong model. You're doing things, or you're either in the wrong model or you're doing it for the wrong reasons. See, I'll go create 10, 20 pieces of content in one day and post them all, and it won't be any skin off of my back because of one, how I'm doing it. Two, I'm not looking for the views and engagement to be what brings more people that I want to work with into our ecosystem, right? So if you're looking at, I create this post and I'm expected to get views, comments, interest, DMs, things like that, yes, you're going to lose every time. You're going to burn out every single time because you're not doing it for the love of the game, right? Or you don't have a model that allows you to not have to look at it. See, if you have a model where you're not having to look at and see how many views did I get, how many comments, oh my God, this is a flop, I need to archive it. When you have to do all of that stuff, that puts you in a place where it's just not going to be fun. But I can go post 20 pieces of content and go have amazing conversations and create super insightful things like listicles. Hey, if I had to go do this all over again, this is what I would do. I can go do all of that inside of a community. And people are going to be like, oh my God, that was super helpful, LD. Thank you so much. And then maybe a day later, 2 days later, there's 2 or 3 people DMing me like, dude, I'd love to jump on a quick call with you because I'm having issues and I saw your post and blah, 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 blah. Am I doing it to get that? No, I'm doing it because I know that if I show up as an amazing person, a great person, that's super helpful inside of a group where my target audience already lives, I don't have to worry about any of this stuff. And it allows me to just show up and be exactly who I need to be. So it's like, if that's the difference. So we see what this person looks like, and what I'm talking about is what they could look like that would turn their frown upside down. That's exactly what would happen. So as far as the AI prompt specifically for this, you know, how I would structure it is I would give AI an honest picture of where my time and money have been going over the last month. And if you can extend it out to the last 3 months, I would do that. And I would say, hey, give me a cold, hard ROI analysis and reallocation plan with the same hours, different activities, and base it on these specific skills that I have. And I would list out all of those skills, kind of what you got from the previous prompt. I would take what it gave you there and I would put it into this one. And what you're going to get is you're going to get a real life picture of what it would look like if you did take a different approach, or a better way for you to use those actual hours. So we're going to put the full AI prompt in the description and we'll be good to go on that. So speaking of, Warren Buffett had a really, really good quote related to this. It's like, he said, I could improve your ultimate financial welfare by giving you a ticket with only 20 slots. And each of those slots is representing all the investments you got to make in a lifetime. Because inherently, what happens? You become a lot more selective on how you use those 20 slots, right? So it's limited hours, limited runway, limited energy. Um, Basically, you don't have unlimited punches, right? Like, and every hour I would say every day on the conventional path that doesn't align with you is a punch wasted, right? So the question isn't how do I do more? It's which punches actually count. And I don't know if you guys are seeing this, but us doing these live streams and being able to bring these insights to you guys in this way, these are punches we are totally fine with giving, because it allows us to just be who we are and provide value from a highly helpful standpoint without having to, do a bunch of things like editing and production wise that we just genuinely don't want to do. And the other side is we know that most people won't do this. Take it for what you want. I know for a fact that most people won't get uncomfortable enough to just go live stream every day. We know it. And because we know it, it's only a matter of time to where this is going to put us in a position that is going to be in alignment with our plans anyway. So Charlie Munger said, "It is remarkable how much long-term advantage people like us have gotten by trying to be consistently not stupid instead of trying to be very intelligent." I'll read that again. It's remarkable how much long-term advantage people like us have gotten by trying to be consistently not stupid instead of trying to be very intelligent. And I think that kind of piggybacks off of what I was just saying. See, all it takes to go live is just pressing a couple buttons. What does it take to create a a really really cute reel? It takes a lot more. So, like, we're just trying to consistently not be stupid. It's like, dude, you don't really want to create a bunch of content like that. I can, and maybe I will do it at some point, but right now, I just want to get this thing off the ground. Let's just go do what most people wouldn't do, man. And I think that looking at it from that perspective is super, super healthy. So that brings us to the third and final framework, because the method that works for experts isn't what you've been told for the most part, and the help that accelerates the transition isn't what most people think. So this framework unlocks everything else. Like, what most people believe is I need to learn entrepreneurship from the ground up, content creation, funnels, ads, branding, a whole new skill set. A companion belief to that is, I also need to figure out all of this on my own. Every situation is different. Nobody's blueprint is going to work for me. I just need to figure it out on my own. And I'll tell you this, both are costing you years and time that you won't, really, really get back. You don't need to learn from scratch. You already have 10, 15, 20 years of real experience. Ryan's digital product strategy skills weren't irrelevant. They were his competitive advantage. My contract officer background, understanding deal structures, procurement decisions, getting people to agree with each other, even though they are, having a massive pissing contest in the conference room, getting these people to chill out, getting people to stop trying to give the government contract to your brother-in-law before we have to tell the proper authorities. And now, this turns into something big, like just getting people to do the right thing and be good people, at least temporarily. Those skills weren't wasted. It was just raw material. All right. Your corporate career isn't something you need to escape from. It's the foundation. The method isn't learn new skills, build a following, value ladder, ads, team. It's like, that's corporate with a different logo and worse benefits. The method is discover your competitive advantage, package it around a real problem, deploy it in rooms where people already need it. That's alignment. And the help part, it's two people who've actually made the transition. And I'll be honest, like, we're obviously going to be biased. Liftoff Lab is amazing. We're taking all of my experience. We're taking everything that Ryan is bringing to the table, like all of his experience, like him being an awesome person. And I believe that, for a lot of our target audience, like, he's going to be the guy for them. Because I've already seen it in other things that we've done. Whenever Ryan opened his mouth, everyone just stopped what they might have been scrolling on their phone or something, like they stopped and they listened, because he was the one who was willing to go out in front when everyone else was kind of twiddling their thumbs, or, oh, I need to edit it more. Oh, I posted it, but 4 hours later, I archived it. Like all of that stuff. He was the one who just let it ride. But we are not oblivious that there are other options out there. But what we're saying is you need to get around someone that's actually made the transition that you will have access to. You will be in proximity of those people, not their underling coaches, because, I was one, but I still kind of did my own thing. There are coaches out there in high ticket coaching programs that they are okay at best. All right. So it's one of those things where, like, your corporate career isn't something to escape from. It's the foundation. All right. The method, again, it's your competitive advantage. It's packaging it around a real problem. It's deploying it in rooms where people already need it. That's alignment. And I would say go find the rooms first, see what people need, and then package it. Either way is totally fine. But if you look at us as examples, Ryan, 20 years corporate career, family dependent on him. Me, 12-year military career, building internationally. I knew that I wanted to travel the world. I knew I wanted to be a global citizen. And this gave me the actual opportunity of being able to do that. It's two different paths, same outcome, aligned, profitable, part-time hours. All right. So this stuff, like, I want you to kind of look at it like you're a contractor who's been building houses for 20 years. Someone told you the only way to start your own company is to become a real estate influencer. So you spend a year making TikToks about drywall instead of just building houses for people who need them and who are willing to pay for them, right? That's the conventional path for experts. You have the skill, you're being told to perform it instead of deploy it. All right. So normally we'd look at another Reddit story, but for this last part, man, I want to do something different, Ryan. So this is, the career transition episode. This is the most personal episode in this series because both of us have lived this. So Ryan, real talk, man. If you could go back to year one of your entrepreneurial journey and give yourself one piece of advice about the transition, knowing everything you know now, what would it be, man?
So it ties directly to something that you just said a few minutes ago, and that your corporate career isn't something that you need to escape from. Because I don't know, when I was presented with the option where I could either stay or go, and I was fortunate enough to have an enhanced severance package opportunity, right? Like not everybody gets that. But when I looked at it back then, the decision for me, it was hard at first until I broke it down like this. Like I've been here for 20 years. Could I see myself being here another 20? And that was an easy no. And so that decision was easy. And since I made it, I've never looked back. But then this is the way that I look at it now that I didn't look at it back then. I wanted to set out and try to do something that, like the guy from the first Reddit story, just like I just thought I could just walk on to this whole different concept and I could just wave a magic wand and make money appear. It's not that easy when it's something that you're trying to figure out that you've never done before. So what I would tell myself if I could go back in time in year one of my entrepreneurial journey was that, and what I would tell anybody else that's thinking about this right now or who's already in that situation, is that nobody can take away the experience, the mistakes that you made, and the lessons that you learned from them, the wisdom from doing that job for however long you did it. Nobody can ever take that away from you. And it will pay dividends in taking that and applying the underlying foundation. Like that doesn't mean you have to go back to the same job that made you miserable. That doesn't mean that it has to look the exact same way. And that's the critical piece that I was missing. So your corporate skills, they are the asset. They're not the baggage, the anchor, whatever you want to call it. That's the biggest thing. And then Second to that, I would say find somebody who's already made the transition instead of trying to figure that out alone. And you're looking at two guys right now. I'm not talking about an influencer. I'm not talking about the gurus. I'm talking about real people who have genuine positive intent to help you get to where you want to be.
Yeah.
And the last thing is that the model that you employ, it matters so much more than the hustle. And I think you and I, in our own different respects, we have learned that the hard way.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So with that, Steve Jobs said, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. Your career dots, every role, project, skill, they're already connected. Like you just so eloquently put, man, you just haven't looked backwards yet. And I would say, even if you have, you probably didn't look backwards with the most ideal lens. Because if I can take someone who's in private equity and I can have their eyes light up when I show them how they can focus on helping churches grow, because that's something that they're super passionate about and good at. He never thought about that lens. But again, he that would have never come to him if he wouldn't have been around people that like have spent time with the various lenses that you need to look at things through. So super important. Marcus Aurelius said, what stands in the way becomes the way. And there's a book that kind of follows this. Ryan Holiday's The Obstacle is the Way. You've heard me talk about these books time and time again, Ryan. Most people don't know that I probably should have my own book club at this point, by all of the referenceable books that I have like stuffed in the noggin, man. But yeah, so here's what we covered, man. Today was good, bro. I don't I could see the smiles on your face. You're like, all right, things are getting tighter, right? So here's everything that we covered. You know, the conventional path works, but it's not the only path. And for people with real expertise, it definitely might not be the best path. Safety built on a broken model is an illusion, right? It just is. Whether you're still inside corporate or you're already out grinding on someone else's playbook, or like you've left but you're still under 6K a month. Like I think that that's the most important thing. Like you're grinding, you're out here, but you're under 6K, and you know that you can be well above that. Like that's what that looks like. Your time and money have an ROI. If it's zero after months, the answer isn't try harder. The answer is try different. The skills you built in your career aren't baggage. They're the raw material. You don't need to reinvest yourself. You need to deploy yourself. Having someone who's actually made the transition, that's not a luxury. That's what compresses years into weeks. 2 plus 2 is not the only way to get to 4. Your math exists. Your path exists. It starts with what you already know, not with what someone else told you to learn. And lastly, again, if you find yourself playing not to lose, it's going to be a hell of a hill to climb to play to win. But you can stop right now and say, to what degree do I need to shift or make optimizations so that I can start playing to win? You can even go and ask AI that. But whatever you do, you have to at least recognize and acknowledge that you're playing not to lose. And that's why it seems like you've just been zipping up and down a runway like an airplane who's afraid to take off. All right. So, Ryan, bring it home, brother.
Yeah, look, I lived this career transition. 20 years at Verizon, 500 posts, and got one client from that. And then after the one shift, not a new skill, not a new platform, just one shift in how I deployed what I already knew, that changed everything. So if anything that we said today hit home for you, if you're sitting there thinking to yourself, okay, maybe there is a different path for me, here's what I do next. First, the AI prompts that LD walked through, they're all in the description below. Copy them, paste them, put your actual life into the variables, and then see what comes back. It takes 5 minutes at the most, and it could completely change how you see your situation. Second, we built a free quiz that tells you exactly where you are across the most important life areas that we cover in this series. Takes about 2 minutes, and the link's in the description. Third, if you want to go deeper, Liftoff Lab is where we take everything we talk about on this show and we build it with you. The waitlist link is in the description. You can also get on it at the end of the quiz. And if you haven't already done so, subscribe, because on the next episode, we're talking about family dynamics, why the business that you're building is supposed to give your family a better life, but it might be the thing that's costing you the most currently, and how two guys with completely different family situations found a model that actually works. We'll see you in the next one.